creating curiosity by asking better questions. This is Shed Talk. Zach, are you kidding me? Is that what it's all about? The things you know that you don't know. Zach, thank you very much for being on Shed Talk here.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
So, Zach, I actually was looking you up, and what was really interesting is every time I look you up, I only found Zach. And I'm looking, I know the Canadian podcasters, and you do an amazing job there. And I'm going, what's Zach's last name?
It's Hussein, Zach Hussein. However, I look at Madonna, I look at Drake, and I thought, it's an interesting way of spelling my name, Z-A-K. So why not utilize and be unique and just kind of make it easy for people and just kind of work with that as a brand.
So why did you think of the Zach, and you're looking at it as a personal brand? You said, I'm going to make sure that it's the first name, never the last name.
Well, so again, like similar to ease of use, and it just says Z-A-K instead of Z-A-C, Z-A-C-H, the way things are usually spelt that way. It's just Z-A-K, it's unique, and then it can stand out.
Oh,
Keep it simple, yeah.
And that's so true, because it's very simple. And being in the podcast industry, and I appreciate you coming on and searching you out, and you've actually done some amazing work out there. But through all the podcasts that I've looked at, and I don't necessarily listen to a lot of podcasts, or don't even listen to podcasts, is that you have the coolest name of all podcasts, okay? And talk about the KISS formula, keep it simple, stupid, is that all of a sudden it becomes the Canadian podcast. How simple can that be? and it's actually brilliant. How did you come up with it? So when did you start doing your podcasts?
So I dabbled, over the years, but in January 2021 is when I actually kind of kicked it off and said, let's go through with this. And it's been a journey. It's been a great journey. It's been exciting. Yeah.
So when you were starting it off, because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and we were looking up like shedtalk.ca, and it's like any entrepreneur out there, the first thing that you're looking at, starting a business, starting a podcast, starting anything, is you had to figure out the correct domain name. Okay, what is the .coms? What are this? And it's like my other company, spindlestairsandrailings.com. Like, it's long, it says what it is. But what's really cool is Canadian podcast. It's massively big when you think of that.
I haven't thought of it like that because it's still homegrown, but I get what you're saying.
So when you're looking at a huge podcast, like it was Canadian Podcast Association or Canadian Podcast Leads of Alliances or whatever, it makes it look that big. And to be able to control that, has people come to you to actually purchase your podcast name?
Not yet.
Well, guess what we're going to do? We'll have to figure that out, because I think it's absolutely brilliant. Now, on your podcast, one of the biggest things that you talk about is mental health. How is mental health with you?
I think today it's better than ever, but it's a journey, just like many folks out there. It's some days it's good, some days it's not. Starting the podcast in January 2021 was healing for me, because in November, the year before, November 25th, 2020, I just quit drinking. I was done. I was actually done with life, and I was really struggling. We're in this pandemic. Year before that, I lost my mother, and mom's a pillar, as we know. So I was just flailing with life. But once I stopped drinking, I realized, oh my God, my social life is gone. So that's when I started, okay, let's kick this podcast off. Let's start and see where it goes. And I realized through the process that, we are not alone in our struggles, and we all have the ups and downs, and we can put people on pedestals and admire them, but you can bring them back to earth and say, wow, you're human, and you're okay, and we can sit down and communicate even if we don't even know each other. So I like that.
And it's interesting, because you were talking about just right now is once you stopped your drinking, and then all of a sudden it's changing your friends, because from speaking from experience, and then all of a sudden have a life-altering experience and sharing a growth and mindset, is that your friends when you're drinking, and I call them, and it's not that it's good or bad, is your basement friends versus your balcony friends, who aspires you to grow, who aspires you to be who you want to be. And then all of a sudden, when you're drinking, you have 1,000 friends.
I sure did.
Yeah, and when you stop drinking...
Where were they?
Right.
You know, I haven't got one call from any of them when I stopped drinking.
And you know what? And that's not a bad
That's not
thing.
a bad thing. And they were not bad people either. It was just they could, for the most part, handle it. I couldn't. I would go off the deep end, black out, not remember, always have to apologize. So I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I had to call myself out on my own BS. And then I realized, oh my God, there's so much growth, so much learning to do. Uh, and the ego was gone. And you realized now it's time to kind of unveil who you are, the boy that you were once were, and like do the things you loved. And there's beauty in this world instead of just sitting at that bar and trying the latest bev. So
Yeah, and when you talk like that, it's kind of like you really have to truly want to love yourself, who
hmm
you are as an individual,
yeah,
because if you can't truly love yourself as an individual, how are you going to love others?
it's so true. It's
So,
cliche, but it's so true. You gotta lose yourself and find yourself again, and then just grow. Just go.
and so once you realized and found yourself through that
hmm
whole Pandora box, and now you've opened it up,
Yeah.
and the saving grace was opening up that podcast.
Yeah.
What got you thinking about a podcast? Like millions of people out there want to start a podcast, think about a
hmm
podcast, but what's the call to action to really do the podcast?
Ooh. I think it's not about the likes, it's not about the listeners or oh God, if I if I thought that way, it'd be out the door right now. But I think it's just the stories. It's how interesting people are from all walks of life. It's an artist, it's an entrepreneur, it's an athlete. And, we were all boys and girls once and we just kind of grow up in our own paths. But we find our way again after losing it at times. And I think that there's a beauty in that. It's never linear, it's this path. We think entrepreneurship is that way. I mean, Kevin, you know this. It's left, right, up, down, anywhere you go. It's not easy, is it?
Oh no, we have no idea where we're going and how we're going to
No.
get there and who's going to be behind
Yeah.
us when it all follows.
hmm
It's I take one of the advices I was always given is somebody had always said to me, remember the people you step on the way up, because when you're coming down, who's going to put out their hand to help you
hmm
up? And that's one of those things that you say, yeah, integrity, self-respect, and loving yourself truly is about how do we grow as individuals. And when you started the podcast, who was your first guest?
Ooh, his name was Zach as well, Zachary,
With a K?
not with the K.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he actually don't know if he's still doing it, but his goal was to go on the moon and explore for water.
So here we are today, and since
Yeah,
2021, did Zach make it to the moon?
not yet,
Not
but
yet, no.
but hey, you never know, right? The world is full of surprises.
So yeah, and then so now you got your first podcast going, and then where did you do your first podcast? Because in 2021, and this is prior COVID, right? I can think 21,
Oh
right?
no, no, it was still
During COVID.
during COVID. I mean, we had our couple weeks off and weeks on, but it was at home, and it was just it was lonely. It was a lonely time for a lot of us, and like I said, I was not going out. I was staying home. I have a little dog, but at the same time, I'm talking to my dog, but he's not. He's not
He,
answering me, and
and if he is answering you back, you know what we're doing?
yeah,
He's going on the Joe Rogan show. Yeah.
exactly. Yes, yes,
He's
he
not going on
is.
this
No,
podcast. He'll go to Joe Rogan's.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I started at home, and it just started growing. And started talking to Calgarians. I've had Brett on. I've had Shane as you had on recently.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we get to talk to some really unique Calgarians that have actually changed the way Calgary has been, where
Mm-hmm.
Calgary is going, and the fundamentals from COVID to where we are now. And you look at this, it's empowering. Understanding we have the communication as podcasters,
No.
the communication in the social media aspect that we actually get to control the narrative
Mm-hmm.
and bring great people together and share that story and everything that's wonderful about it. What has been one of the greatest challenges for yourself in doing this big build on it?
I wouldn't call it a big build, but whatever I have thus far, I think it's the challenge is how to not take everything so hard on yourself and take it so personally. Because I think at first, when you'd hear such hardship people go through, it makes your problems look minuscule. But at the same time, you can really take it to heart and start absorbing that in and saying, wow, it'll change my day of how I'm feeling. But now, it just like anything is, you have to put a shield in front of you and you have to protect that energy because it doesn't mean harm. It saves you from whatever out there.
The energy suckers of the world that actually just here they are, the naysayers. Oh, poor me. I wish I shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Hmm.
They would have should all over themselves. Kind
Yeah.
of the idea, and
It's a
like you're
victim
right.
mentality. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And there's a lot of that victim
Hmm.
mentality out there that's going in there, and then it comes with mindset, and then how does mindset control us to go to the next level? How do you see mindset?
I think it's sheer determination. It's finding those targets that you want to hit. I mean, it might not work. Oftentimes, it won't work. But not trying when we're 80 is going to haunt me. So I'll try things and I'll fail, but I also win sometimes. And again, through the failure, there's lessons. And then just like this brick here, there's stepping stones, and you just keep going.
No, and that's true because we have to keep going no matter what. Because that's as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, um, there's no such thing as success.
No, there
And
really isn't. It's not
no,
money.
no,
It's not a bigger house, a nicer car. It's just taking something from nothing and building it. There's an excitement. It's the journey, it's the process. And then when you see it in fruition, like this podcast studio here, once it was done, where you're like, wow.
yeah, and it's that lean in moment, that aha, because every day becomes that aha moment. That lean in is that I'm going to control the narrative today because today is going to be the most absolute brilliant day that I possibly can because it's Groundhog Day.
Mm-hmm.
Groundhog Day is not about any other day but today. So we truly listen, we truly become curious and grow. And this gets us back into more of the podcasting and where you're at is developing the curiosity on our podcasts.
Curiosity for the podcast, curiosity for life, learning from others, taking what you can learn and applying it to your own life. I've had folks from, again, like all walks of life, but the veterans that have served our country and some of the, especially in the special operations units. So there's a friend that I have named Sean Taylor, and he was a JTF2 sniper. And it's so interesting, his mindset. We come from two different worlds, but I can apply what I learned from what he's been able to do in terms of taking that deep breath in stressful situations, or patience, or timing things right and executing. And it's just incredible to apply that into business or into entrepreneurship or into marketing, and see how he was able to do it in his realm of things.
And that's interesting because you go back to the war, or where, and I'm assuming back when he was in the war,
Hmm.
and the self gratification as being an instant gratification, as in today, like, oh, silver, what's that? Meaning,
Yeah, of course.
meaning here we're
Shiny.
shiny new object. Let's jump on it right now. Where back then it was like, this is a process. This is what it takes. Let's sit back, enjoy the moment, and move forward. Where the self gratifications today with young people is that we need to have it. I need it now. I got to get that dopamine right now. I
Hmm.
got to play my game right now. Wait a second. Oh, that didn't work. I got to move on. And not realizing the power
Yeah.
of waiting and the power of this gentleman just told you
Hmm.
is
Well,
what we
well,
learn.
well, you hear this is like, you'll see someone take a picture and say, I need to post it right now. So why can't you just enjoy this moment? We can post it later. When we grew up, we would take photos, but it would take a while to come back from London drugs or wherever. And half the time our eyes are closed in them. And it didn't matter. It was just like, okay, we were all there. Great. But now it's all about that. It's all about, well, let's go to this beautiful place because we need to take a photo. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I also think don't lose the moment. Don't lose now.
And how do people not lose that moment? And you hear we talk about, so social media, I want to be unplugged. I got to be unplugged. Yeah. And I call that storytelling. If you really want to be unplugged, just be unplugged.
You're so right. Yeah.
But how do you tell yourself and train yourself to truly take that moment and really relax? Like when
Hmm.
you were talking about Kodak, and I'm dating
Okay.
myself way back when, but that moment in time where you actually had to take the
The
film, take
role,
it
yeah.
in, and then you get it, just like a letter. Emails are instantly in now.
Hmm.
Letters that you looked forward to that moment in time where you just sat there and read it. That it took 2 weeks to get there.
Or someone that would go away and send you a card, and you get it, and you see London or wherever, and you're like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I would always do this. Is I would take the London cards and I'd fill them out and then I'd mail them to myself and I'd ask somebody, "Hey, can you mail me this in about 2 months when I'm in London?" And then I'd get that card and I'd go, "Oh," and it would actually force me to truly sit back and think about the trip because all of a sudden I didn't get it on the memory of my phone, but
No.
an actual postcard came in and I had somebody actually drop it in the mail a month or 2 months later after I'd visit there. Hey, can you just drop this in? Here's $5.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
probably more than $5.
Yeah.
Drop this in, and then I got it, and then all of a sudden that whole dopamine feeling that all of a sudden became really warm was something that was totally different that you didn't. And how many people truly just write a letter today and mail it?
How many people are writing?
Yeah, how many people know how to write?
That's the other thing.
I
Yeah,
asked,
that is very true.
I
Yeah.
asked the young kids. I said,
Scripture.
yeah, what does a clock look like? How can you tell the time on a clock?" And I'd watch that. And what does a clock's time look like? What does 2 o'clock with the hands look like? And how many people actually know that? That's the scary part.
Mhm. Well, we're wearing our watches here right now. They're digital. It's great. It's easy. But oftentimes analog. It's a thing people don't really understand anymore either.
Oh yeah. Well, I got my watch because I could actually tell how many footsteps I had, and my heartbeat was this and that,
It's
and
great.
then going through that is just like wow.
Isn't that incredible? So there's technology for good, and I've really been diving deep into AI now. Not in terms of the trend of AI, but more or less in terms of how is it going to impact humanity? How is it going to bring us to a level where we're productive. It's not taking away jobs, but maybe mundane tasks that now individual can do some greater things. But AI is an interesting area where a lot of people are worried. Has that been something that you've been a little afraid of?
Well, with the AI, look, it's and I always go back to the things you know that you don't know.
Yes.
So, is AI going to take jobs? Sure, it's going to do anything that it possibly can. But so did horse and buggy. So when we had horse and buggy, and then all of a sudden the automotive came, guess what? Roads had changed, gasoline had come in. All of a sudden, it was a shift in our paradigm to go to the
Hmm.
next level. AI is just going
Another,
to create jobs that we didn't know that existed in
mhm.
10 years from now.
Henry Ford came in. You're right. He nailed that. Same with the yellow pages. Google came in. How many of us are looking at the yellow pages anymore? I mean, I still get it at time to time, but here and there, I'm never looking at it in terms of a search anymore. When we used to have encyclopedias, where is that today, right? And in terms of AI, do you think people should be afraid of it?
I believe that you should be curious of it. It's like anything. Being afraid of
Hmm.
something just means you're ignorant. Um, being knowledgeable of something, it means that we grow. I look at it like this: in a podcast or in production, anything we do is that if you've read it in the paper, it's already too late. How do you become the head of your industry, the head of whatever you want to be? So lead. Is AI going to be there? You bet AI is going to be there. What is it doing? How is it going? We are the people that are actually going to lead and guide whatever that's going to be.
Yes.
Who wants not to be ahead of the curve, the trend?
Hmm.
So, podcasting, everything we do is how much AI is being involved in this.
Well, exactly. And AI is not new to us, just that buzzword now. Just like, you said, sit back and observe things, see what it's about. A couple of years ago, there was a thing called NFTs that were big, or, the crypto world. I don't know much about all that stuff, but I was observing it and trying to understand. I don't understand someone buying a digital piece of art for $64 million. I get it, you're owning a piece of a blockchain and all that stuff, but in terms of today, you're not really hearing about that stuff. Now you're talking about AI, and this world we're in, I think is just in every single field when it comes to healthcare, accounting, finance. The energy sector here in Alberta is now implementing AI. I saw, some of the government initiatives now that are happening. It's incredible. So, how can we help people learn AI in the right manner, but at the same time, not overwhelm them. So I created something called the AI magazine.ca. And basically, I want folks to come on and try out little tools, see if it works for themselves. And if it does, great. If not, that's okay too. But it's like learning the process while I'm also learning it, passing it on and saying, what do you think? Try it out.
So give me an example of the AI magazine. So
Sure.
what does that look like?
Sure. So it's online.
Yeah.
It's a website. Basically, it'll have every single day there's about 20 to 30 new softwares coming out of AI. Who can keep up? So if I could kind of find the right ones that I enjoy and share with an audience that's interested and say, hey, why don't you try it out and see what you can do with it? Or a prompt. So prompting is going to be a huge business. Prompt engineering, it's actually called. So it's not about, you've heard of Chat GPT and all these things. It's who can type these things the best in terms of input to get the greatest output. So how I word something, how I can direct a video, because now you can create a Hollywood cinematic video with AI. That's why there's a guy named Tyler Perry. He was putting an $800 million studio into Hollywood. They just canceled it because they said AI is coming in. We can't do it.
That's amazing. So let's get back. Let's talk a little bit more about that prompt, because all of a sudden you got the magazine, the core, okay, .com. They're coming in there. Now all of a sudden, give me an example of one of the things you're working on with that AI as a sharing aspect. So you can talk more about the prompt side.
Right. So I guess it's like I would want someone to take a prompt that
What is a prompt?
a prompt is a words or a paragraph of sorts to input into a software. So say ChatGPT,
So I'm going on my phone.
and I will recommend saying, "Hey, if you want to make a render of this beautiful podcast studio, or say stairs,
Okay.
give me some stair ideas. We'll start, I guess, wording things appropriately for you to even just grab that and play with it. Now you can update it however you want, do whatever you want with it, but it's a start to learn how to utilize AI and use AI, because AI is not going to take away jobs. It's the people that know how to use AI that are going to move forward. Professors are now even saying is like we need to start teaching our students AI so that when they graduate, they have an upper hand here. So
Right. And it's one of those things is and I want to dive a little bit deeper into this, because what's interesting about you talk about AI, everybody talks about AI, and I say everybody, okay, and it's kind of like asking ourselves a better question. So think of AI as it like this: is that and I'm going to use Calgary, so a population of whatever it is, let's say a million. So out of the population of a million, there's AI. 1% uses AI. Okay, so that's 100,000. Out of that, and I mean uses it, meaning they know it, they've seen it. Maybe it's a little bit higher. That 90% know it. Okay, but 1% use it. Then there's another 1% that use it for their businesses, like dig down deep, which is like 10,000. Out of that 10,000, there's a 1%, which is 100, that are proficient in it, that are truly dialed in. So the 1% of the 1% in our city. So take that over North America wide. It's a small number.
it is. Yeah.
So when I look at AI right now today, and I asked you about the prompt, is how many people understand, is AI Chat GPT or is AI a this,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So
Because
it's
there's machine learning, there it goes far. Like but you almost have to introduce in slivers, layers, because I think someone that does not know this yet is just going to get overwhelmed. There's a lot to look into,
Oh,
and it can take you down some weird paths. So it's like if you could just break it down to almost curriculums and activities, I think someone can feel progress and start learning it. The opportunities you brought up, Calgary. We see so much money going to some random ways of always doing business. I'm a history buff. I love history, old cars, old buildings, everything. Abandoned towns in Alberta. That's like my favorite weekend hobby. So, what if like Tourism Calgary created an app of sorts that you could walk around downtown and you're on Stephen Avenue and you hover over this building instead of just reading that plaque of the historic building? Why not it utilize AI. Like there's optical recognition technology or AR technology. So things will pop up. Like there was that Pokemon Go thing people were obsessed with forever. But you could see it on your phone and what it used to look like back in the day, that building. And you know, start immersing people into our city's culture. I mean, there's so many opportunity there. You know, we have the other day, where was I? Oh, BMO Center. They had the World of Wheels car of all the old muscle cars and stuff. And I saw a statue of Guy Wiedek, founder of Stampede, for the folks that don't know. Imagine you could have AR and he was walking around with you or showing you this is what the Stampede used to look like.
So would you wear a helmet with that or a hat?
No.
You could actually.
Literally, just your phone. And you would hover over and here Guy Wiedek's right here with you.
So is this the business proposition you're thinking about?
It was just an idea. If anyone's thinking about this, hey, here.
So now this is where you're going to turn around and actually create a business that all of a sudden these guys are going to come in and all of a sudden, hey, this is a great idea, because that's actually brilliant when you think about it.
It's. I mean, you could see it in the Vatican. You know, years ago when I'd gone with my family there, they give you like this old school headphones and like a little MP3 or a Walkman, whatever it was, and you walk around and you listen and you could know things. It's just a modern day tool that we could utilize.
And that's interesting, because how many cities, and like and ask ourselves a better question here, is that, so take Calgary, here's the historian aspect of it for the buildings, but then all of a sudden take the land, like Big Rock. How did the glaciers come into play? People don't realize that actually Calgary was on a bed of volcanic ash. And I remember as a kid in the kettle, there's the kettle, you know, the grade 3 math or grade 3 geography. Yeah. And we had actually gone by CFCN Hill, way up in the top, and
yes.
you saw the layer of 3 inches of volcanic ash everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
And how many kids or how many people actually know, do the tour of Calgary, that when you're at CFCN Hill and you look across, that this was a lake bed. Mm-hmm. And the whole city of Calgary was a lake bed, and where the glaciers actually came through. And how many people truly know the history of where we came from for Calgary and then the whole history? It is absolutely amazing.
Right. So it could be I mean, there's a Yelp app, there's apps for guides everywhere, but there's nothing like that I've seen thus far. But that's just a start.
I think we should probably get that going.
I think so.
You know what, Zach? Thank you very much for being on Shed Talk.
Thank you so much.
And moving to the next level. And if there's anything, let's talk just quick. What's your podcast?
CanadianPodcast.ca, we focus on I'm so used to talking about men's mental health, right? With mental.
We do have that.
Yes. But mental health, self-development, you know, the trials and tribulations of life, the peaks and valleys, we all have it. But what makes us all unique? And it's amazing to see the stories from coast to coast. And I continue to look forward to doing that and maybe, you know, create a network one of these days. And we've kind of chatted briefly on that too.
Well, there definitely will be a network, and we're definitely going to set it up. And there's definitely going to be one of those apps set up, because there's no grass growing under our feet. Yeah. We make things happen because we can. Because what? The things you know that you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Now you know. Shed Talk.